Blame appears quickly. Something goes wrong, and before we fully understand it, the mind starts searching for a person, a face, a name. The question forms almost automatically. Who is responsible? It feels natural, almost necessary. When something breaks, when plans fail, when expectations are not met, the discomfort needs direction. Without direction, it floats. It feels messy. Blame gives it a place to land. If someone else caused it, then the situation becomes simpler. The story becomes clearer. There is less confusion. And more importantly, there is less personal weight. The thought, "It's not my fault," brings relief faster than most people notice. You can see it in everyday moments: a misunderstanding at work, a mistake in traffic, a disagreement at home. The first instinct is often not reflection, it is protection. Protection of identity, protection of self-image. Blame keeps the picture of ourselves clean. If the problem belongs to someone else, then we remain capable, careful, competent. The mind prefers that version. Blame also organizes emotion. Anger feels stronger when it has a direction. Frustration feels easier to carry when it has a target. Without someone to blame, emotions turn inward, and that feels less stable. Blame creates certainty. It answers discomfort with a simple structure. Something happened, someone caused it. That explanation feels better than uncertainty. Even when we share responsibility, we often look for the larger portion to place outside ourselves. We look for the clearer mistake in someone else's behavior. We notice their misstep before we notice our own. This is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet, a small shift in thinking, a silent conclusion in the mind. Blame reduces complexity. It shortens the story. It gives the feeling that order has returned. And when order returns, even briefly, the body relaxes. That relief is subtle, but it matters. It is often the reason the search for someone to blame begins so quickly. Carl Jung would look at blame and ask a simple question: what part of this belongs to us? Blame often moves outward very quickly. Something goes wrong and we locate the cause in another person. Jung would say that this movement protects us from something uncomfortable inside. When we blame, we protect our image of ourselves. If the fault is outside, then we remain intact, capable, reasonable, innocent. Jung believed the mind does not like to hold tension for long. If there is guilt, doubt, or fear inside us, it searches for relief. Projection is one way that relief happens. Projection means placing what feels difficult inside us onto someone else. If we feel careless, we notice someone else's carelessness first. If we feel selfish, we become sensitive to selfishness around us. The mind shifts attention outward so we do not have to sit with the discomfort within. Blame becomes a shield. Jung would not call this evil, he would call it natural. The psyche tries to stay balanced. It tries to avoid inner conflict that feels too sharp. Admitting responsibility can threaten the image we carry of ourselves. It can disturb the story we believe about who we are. Blame allows that story to stay stable. When we blame someone else, we avoid meeting our own shadow. The shadow contains the traits we do not like to admit: weakness, anger, carelessness, fear. Blame keeps those traits at a distance. The more uncomfortable the situation feels, the stronger the urge to project. It is easier to say someone else failed than to question our own choices. It is easier to criticize than to reflect. Jung would say that blame is not only about the other person, it is also about protecting the self from exposure. If we take responsibility, we must face parts of ourselves we might not want to see. Blame keeps the mirror turned away. It feels stabilizing in the moment, but it leaves something unresolved inside. Friedrich Nietzsche would look at blame and notice something sharper. Blame is not only protection, it is power. When we blame someone, we do more than remove fault from ourselves. We rise slightly above them. We become the one who sees clearly, the one who judges, the one who stands on the safe side of the line. That position feels strong. Nietzsche wrote about resentment as something that grows when we feel hurt or diminished. When something goes wrong and we feel small, blame offers a way to reverse that feeling. Instead of sitting with weakness, we turn it into accusation. The problem is no longer our mistake or limitation, it becomes someone else's flaw. This shift changes the emotional balance. We move from uncertainty to certainty. We move from exposure to justification. Blame turns discomfort into moral clarity. If someone else caused the damage, then we are not responsible for it. If someone else is careless or selfish, then we remain careful and fair. Blame creates contrast, and contrast feels powerful. It draws a line between them and us. On one side is failure, on the other side is innocence. That line feels stabilizing. Nietzsche would say that this is why blame can feel satisfying. It protects pride. It keeps dignity intact without requiring self-examination. It allows us to feel right without having to grow stronger. Once blame is spoken, it often hardens. Questioning it feels threatening because if the other person is not fully guilty, then part of the responsibility may return to us. That possibility feels uncomfortable. Blame becomes a shield around wounded pride. It hides disappointment in ourselves. It hides fear of inadequacy. Instead of admitting those feelings, we convert them into accusation. Blame offers a small elevation. From that position, we do not feel broken, we feel justified, and justification is easier to carry than doubt. Niccolò Machiavelli would not focus on who is truly guilty. He would look at what blame does. Blame is useful. It moves attention. It protects structures. It keeps order when something goes wrong. When a mistake happens inside a group, uncertainty spreads quickly. People feel unstable. They want clarity. Naming a person as responsible restores balance. The tension narrows. The problem becomes contained. Machiavelli would notice that leaders understand this very well. When frustration grows, offering a target can calm the crowd. The target may or may not be the full cause. That is not always the point. The point is stability. Blame simplifies complex situations. Systems are complicated. Decisions are shared. Outcomes are rarely caused by one person alone. But shared responsibility feels messy. It leaves too many open questions. Assigning blame to one individual feels cleaner. Once someone carries the fault, the structure around them can remain untouched. Machiavelli would see how this protects power. If a system fails, but one person is declared responsible, the larger design avoids scrutiny. Attention stays focused on the visible mistake instead of the deeper arrangement. Blame acts like a shield. It also creates unity. When a group agrees on who is responsible, they feel connected. They stand together against the accused. That shared position reduces internal conflict. Without someone to blame, members might begin questioning each other. They might question the rules. They might question leadership. That uncertainty is dangerous to stability. Blame prevents that drift. Machiavelli would not describe this as cruel by default. He would describe it as strategic. Groups want to survive. Institutions want to continue. Redirecting fault can be an effective way to restore calm. The person who carries the blame becomes a container. Inside that container, frustration, anger, and disappointment are placed. Outside it, the system continues. Blame becomes functional. It gives the appearance of justice while preserving the structure. And once order feels restored, most people stop asking deeper questions. Napoleon Hill would not begin with blame itself. He would look at what happens after it. Once someone is blamed, something inside us becomes calmer. The tension lowers. The situation feels explained. Hill would notice that this calm matters more than the accuracy. Blame gives the mind a story it can live with. Something went wrong, and now there is a reason. There is a person attached to the event. The discomfort has shape. That shape feels stabilizing. Hill believed that people need belief to move forward. When things fall apart, belief helps restore emotional balance. Blame can act like a temporary belief. It tells us that the world still makes sense. It tells us that mistakes are not random, they are caused. That idea feels reassuring. If someone else is responsible, then our path remains clean. We can continue without carrying the full weight. We can protect our confidence. Hill understood how important confidence feels. Without it, action becomes harder. Blame protects confidence. It allows us to believe that we are still capable and that the problem came from outside interference. That belief makes it easier to try again. It softens the fear of failure. Hill would not rush to condemn this. He would see the emotional function. People want stability. They want hope. They want to feel that they are not deeply flawed. Blame offers that relief quickly. It also allows us to maintain a simple narrative. The world remains understandable. Good and bad stay separated. Order feels restored. But Hill would also recognize that belief can delay growth. If blame becomes the automatic answer, we stop looking inward. We stop asking what we could learn. Blame comforts first. Reflection requires more strength. So we choose comfort. It feels lighter to believe that someone else caused the damage. It feels easier to protect our self-image than to examine it. Blame is not only accusation, it is reassurance. And reassurance is something most people reach for when the ground feels unstable. Most of the time, we already know this. We just don't like hearing it said.